love that like the 6th level effect can't even like get your spellbook back to you for free. If something like I would expect something that summons something to me to take it off of whoever stole it from me as like its
Yeah,
main use case, and it sure doesn't do that.
for a 6th level spell, I want their hands as well.
Yeah, right?
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we will be breaking down our picks for the top 5 and one worst. What is it? Conjuration spells.
Yes.
All the conjuration spells, which made this considerably more difficult than choosing our best abjuration spells.
Yeah, like there were like 7, 8-ish really good abjuration spells. There's like 20
Well, I
really
mean,
good conjuration spells.
because when I started like looking, I was thinking, oh man, this is just going to be summon this, summon that, conjure this, conjure that. But no, there are. I mean, those are all amazing as well. But there are so many good conjuration spells that aren't those.
Yeah, I'm gonna rip the band-aid off. Wish didn't make my top 5 because it's the 9th level spell.
Oh,
It is there's too many impactful spells for me to consider Wish to be the top 5 just because it's such a high level slot. It is really powerful, but there's really powerful, really cheap options here too that like are game warping. So
I I will not rip that band-aid off.
excellent.
All right. Well, I guess I'll go first this time.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, where's my list? Here it is. All right, at number 5, and it pains me to put this at number 5 because I love it so much. Scatter.
Scatter didn't make my list.
No, I didn't think it would.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love Scatter too. It's a 3 out of
Yeah.
5 spell though. It's nowhere near the best of the conjuration options. That's okay.
Yeah, I away from the heart.
Yeah, you
And
love the spell the most. It's in your top 5 most
yes,
loved conjuration spells.
yes,
That's
there you
fine.
go. But man, it is really cool. I mean, you move your friends, move your enemies.
You're
You're cheating at chess.
it tickles like a little part of my brain that goes, oh, the things you could do with it, you know? You're thinking about the potential that Scatter
Yeah.
can have in all kinds of wacky different environments and all kinds of cool set piece encounters. I can think of dozens of awesome moments that Scatter could be involved in. It's just like usually it's not gonna do that. Usually it's gonna be like, this is kind of useful, but like it's a 2nd level self-teleport's probably about as useful. So like that's where it's not amazing, but it's definitely really, very cool.
All right, what's your number 5?
I felt like I had to include a summon on here, so I picked the cheapest one. I picked Summon Beast because it sort of is like new era of summon effects, and the cheaper you get them, the better they generally speaking are. They are whole extra characters that you don't have to spend actions commanding that do powerful things. All of them upscale to get extra attack, and Summon Beast just happens to be the cheapest. At 3rd level, getting a whole extra character in the party for a single 2nd level spell slot is a steal. And Druids can also get Wild Companion, which we will touch on shortly. So like, there's a lot of really huge power baked in just bringing extra characters to the table. They take attacks. They use attacks. They can help you in combat and out of combat. They're just unbelievably helpful. And having one for such a cheap rate is genuinely really, really powerful.
Now, when you say you had to put a summon spell on here, are you including conjure spells in that as well?
No, don't worry. Those are
Okay.
on here too.
All
They're
right.
better than this.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, the summon spells are amazing. None of them made my list, because there were just others I couldn't bring myself to not put on the list.
Yeah,
We
I
only
felt
get
the same
5.
way. I think if I were picking based solely off raw power, this wouldn't have made the list. But 3 conjure spells would have. So I'm glad this made the list. Only 1 conjure spell did for me, you know?
All right. Next up, I had Mage Hand,
Mage Hand is my number 2.
number 2.
It's so good. It's a cantrip, is why it's so good. It's
Yes.
so accessible. Tons of people get it. Oh yeah. You just love
And
the thing.
it's cool and it's improvable if you have the telekinetic feat.
Yeah, I really think they found like, oh hey, people really like playing with this. What if we just made some things care about it? It's like
Or
Arcane
what's
Trickster.
the
It's Mage Hand's
Sword
Letterman.
Keeper?
Swarmkeeper gets one too. Yeah,
Yeah,
Swarmkeeper
yeah.
gets one that lets you pretend it's bees or birds or whatever else Swarmkeeper's pretending it is at the time. That's really cute. I like that a lot. Love that it feels telekinetic. It's just going from having a character with it and without it, you will feel the difference. It's palpable. Like, it is genuinely very powerful. It's every character that can get it probably wants it.
Yes. Mage Hand.
Telekinesis is it's just useful.
You can
Go
jack
watch
off
that video.
ogres. Yeah.
That is in that video.
Yes.
All right. My number 4 then is one that I'm including here because it kind of encompasses 2 effects that are like critical to a class. It's Find Steed. Find Steed's ridiculous. Find Steed is a summonable ally the same way Summon Beast is, but doesn't take your concentration. And on top of that,
Yes.
like, it gives you a myriad of other little critter options at its disposal. It's super powerful.
Surprisingly, that didn't make my list. In fact, it almost did, and then I got distracted by something else, and I forgot about it.
And now Scatter's on your list instead. I get it.
Yeah, that might have been it. I I probably took Find Seed off to put Scatter, and shame on me.
It
Because
has
yes,
some
Find Seed is amazing.
Yes, it has a lot of the cool utility of self-cast spells twin it, so you can get 2 really cool buff effects going at the same time, which is genuinely really fun. It has the modality of like you can either have the steed fight as its own just thing, or you can ride around and do cool stuff on it. It's a super powerful effect. Again, I think if I were doing this based off raw power, this still probably doesn't make the cut, but it is the kind of spell, and Find Greater Steeds is the same environment, where it's like, this is a pillar of a class. This is a core feature that you really want on your paladins and your bards. So, like, this is definitely a kind of spell that I think deserves a top 5 ranking.
Yeah, there's as the that one commenter keeps pointing out, there's a lot of cheese to be had with sharing your spells with your steed.
Oh yeah, you can do a lot of crazy stuff.
Crown of Stars.
That's the really silly one that never ever will happen unless you're a bard. But if you're a bard, it is hilarious. Get Find Greater Steed, get Crown of Stars, and you just both firing off motes. Like, you feel like a literal demigod flying across the sky as a constellation, just raining the stars that make up your beings across upon the peasants below you. That's such a cool image, right? Come on.
Indeed. All right. I also chose number 3 for me is Find Familiar.
That's my number 1.
Thought it might
It
be.
is so good. And I did mention Wild Companion earlier. That's why Wild Companion lets druids Find Familiar too now. So hey, why not? Everybody gets cute little pets that you can telepathically communicate with, that give you free information, that take actions in combat. They do all kinds of busted stuff, to deliver items, take actions. It's a second character sheet. Sometimes that second character sheet comes with invisibility at will if you're a warlock. Spell's super busted. So good. It doesn't cost you spell slots. It just costs you a little bit of money.
And and anyone can get this with a ritual caster. So
Magic Initiate can get it, Ritual Caster can get it, tons of classes can dip into and find ways to take this thing. Strixhaven Initiate, tons of feats give you access to this. Again, Warlocks and Wizards both get it innately if you take Pact of the Chain, or if you're just a wizard. Druids get it innately now because of Wild Companion. Like, if you want a pet, this is how you do it. And if I, like, honestly, I'm on almost every fighter I play these days, I'm like, I want a magic feat because I want some utility. And that usually defaults to me taking Find Familiar in some capacity. And if it's attached to Ritual Caster, you also just get a whole bunch of other sweet ritual spells along the way. Why not? Spell's amazing. We have a whole video dedicated to talking about just one portion of the spell doing cool things. That's instead like touch range spells that Familiars deliver for you, right? Pair this with the immovable object, you got a really cool little ability on your hands. Of
course. That video turned into being, none of these are all that amazing. But
they're
it's
made
still cool.
Slightly better by having a familiar, mainly the top 5. Come on, a rat in your pocket giving you guidance, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah. You can do it.
Oh, I'm up next, Tom. My number 3. This is the last one I got. And it really is a toss-up for me because the conjure spells are all crazily busted. So I also just went with the lowest level one. I went with conjure animals. But you could substitute in here conjure woodland beings or conjure minor elementals because they're all utterly insanely broken. Like, truly busted spells. The reason they're not number 1 or 2 is the headache and the ability for the DM to give you the finger. So those 2 reasons keep them under that. But if you're ever allowed to pick what monsters, they're completely unfair. They're wildly imbalanced. You just take 8 of whatever you want, giant owls in this case, or mephits in the case of minor elementals, or pixies in the case of woodland beings, and they crack the game right in half because 8 extra entities is too many entities. It's just too many. The moral of the story is there's just too many creatures for a single spell slot. It doesn't even really matter what the creatures are. It's just too many of them.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'll go with my number two. I chose Conjure Woodland Beings for the
Perfect.
Pixies.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
pixies come with 30 spells.
exactly. That's, there was no contest for me. I mean, I wanted to choose minor elementals because I
Mhm.
like mephits exploding in people's faces, but
Yep.
it doesn't compare to an army of tiny winged people with a shit ton of spells.
Yeah, it's really funny that if you want to cast Polymorph, but you could cast Modern Conjure Woodland Beings, it's just better to cast Conjure Woodland Beings if you get to pick Pixies, because they all come with a free cast of Polymorph. Yeah, I think that's probably the most unfair way a spell can be used in this game. It doesn't work that way rules is written, though, which is why I'm like, I don't know where to put these truly obnoxiously powerful options. Because, like, your DM can just opt not to give you pixies ever if they really want to,
Yeah.
or just give you one pixie, and then it's only usually kind of absurdly broken, as opposed to a game like, oh no, we just can't play the game anymore because 8 pixies ruin every encounter we possibly could plan. Yeah, all these spells are busted. I do think that one probably has the most raw potential power baked into it. Eight Giant Owls is still going to ruin a lot of encounters, though, and it
Oh
comes
yeah.
a whole 2 levels earlier, so a lot more tables are going to be able to experience that absolute clown fiesta. So, well, that's all
Not
5 of mine.
everybody. People didn't already quit because of all the giant owls everywhere.
Those are my 5, Bob. What else you got?
Uh, all right, I got number one. I picked Wish.
Yeah, Wish is really good.
Yeah, it's every other spell in the game
Yeah, every 8th level or
except
lower
for
spell.
ninth level. Yeah,
Yeah, and it also like has other powerful, insanely busted game warping effects. The issue is it costs a 9th level spell slot,
yeah,
which is why I didn't crap my top 5, because I think there are like 5% or less of the D&D player base probably has played it with characters that have 9th level spell slots, right? You're not
yeah.
among that
No,
quantity. So like I had a really hard time putting. That's why I all of these favored the lower level versions. Because I'm like, what affects the most tables? What's the power base to the most tables? It's the lower level stuff. But oh, you're 100% right. That Wish is super cracked. Spell's completely busted. Wish is a free casting Conjure Minor or Conjure Woodland Beings. That's amazing.
sure.
I would put a 9th level spell slot on Conjure Woodland Beings if I could guarantee get Pixies. Absolutely, I'd
That's
do that.
true.
Like it's
Certainly over a
insane.
lot of other ninth level options.
Yeah, compared to Storm of Vengeance. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Or weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Wish is super cracked.
I'm glad we do the videos this way because I would have felt bad if Wish didn't make either of the lists and if Find Steed didn't make either of the lists.
Yeah.
We got them both covered.
There are still a handful of spells where I'm like, wow, we're not talking about that. That's a shame. I was sure you were gonna bring up Web. I was positive Web was gonna make your top 5 as a
No,
really powerful effect.
I, I love Web,
I know
but
you
no,
do. It's great too.
yeah,
It's just there's a lot
um,
of really busted stuff here.
yeah,
And it's hard to put Web on the same tier as something like a free animal that does your bidding, that's super expendable, it takes bonus actions, and it uses items insanely efficiently while also is able to transform into 30 different shapes. Right? Like it's hard to compare a bunch of webs to that kind of raw free power, you know?
yes.
Oh, what other ones are on here that I really want to talk about? Let me see. Misty Step is really fun, but definitely doesn't crack top 5. Uh Let me take a look. Any other big ones jump out to you?
No, I don't have the list pulled up.
Oh, that's fair. All the summons, all the unique things. Shadow Spawn is super awesome and edgy. Got Summon Demon and Celestial that are pretty sweet. All the Conjure stuff we already touched on for the most part. Touched kind of on Find Greater Steed. There's a lot of really powerful stuff that's baked into the Conjuration school. It definitely seems like the best school of magic in this game. Abjuration has some really powerful stuff, and Evocation's got some like big raw damage numbers. But if we're talking about like effects that fundamentally break how the game's played, it has to be Conjuration as far as like what's the nastiest stuff you can do, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, we didn't talk
All
about Tree
right,
Stride. Does that deserve to make a top 5?
Tree Stride?
Yeah, it's a funny little guy.
No.
No, it does not. Probably should be a 2nd level spell or it's deep.
All right.
Anyway,
Well,
the fun
that's
part.
yeah. I think the yeah, we gotta give the people what they want. Now is the part of the video where we talk about our pick for the worst conjuration spell.
Yeah.
I started the best. You can start the worst. What do you got?
It's instant summons. You're
Oh,
right.
that was
It
mine
just
too.
it just is instant summons. This thing is horrendous.
There were some other contenders, but no, yeah, it wasn't much of a contest for me.
It's a way to waste 1,000 gold pieces. Like, at least at the end of the day, when you cast the other spells, you're not out of money. But this case, you're just out of money for what is
And
I
you might
keep my
not get
longsword
the
on me.
thing you
What?
want,
Yeah.
because if somebody's holding it, then yeah, you just crushed an amethyst or whatever in your hand, and now that's gone, and so is your
I
thing.
I love that like the 6th level effect can't even like get your spellbook back to you for free. If something like I would expect something that summons something to me to take it off of whoever stole it from me as like its
Yeah,
main use case, and it sure doesn't do that.
for a 6th level spell, I want their hands as well.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. What are the other honorable mentions for you?
Let me take another look.
Storm of Vengeance is up there. It could be
Oh
Storm
yeah,
of
that's right.
Vengeance. That is a conjuration spell that is
Yeah, it is.
really, really awful. But it doesn't cost you a grand to use. So
A grand to not use even.
yeah. Just to like have, just
Uh,
in case you want it.
let's see. No, see, a lot of these are okay. A lot of
Yeah.
them are great, and I don't see anything that's really standing out as terrible. I thought there were.
Yeah,
Um,
I Secret Chest is something I know you're not a huge fan of. I don't think it's great because it can randomly destroy your stuff. But
yeah.
it's lower level, so I have less of a hard time with it. And like if you don't have a bag of holding, it can do that job, kind of, not in a great fashion, but it kind of does the job you're looking for, right? Speedy Courier is not
Um,
great, but it's fine. It's just not like practically useful.
Word of Recall. What does that do?
I think it's a better version of the instant summons that we just touched on. You end up to five only. Oh, never mind. It takes you to a designated sanctuary, so it's
Oh,
as an
right,
action you
right, right.
teleport 5 people back to
No,
home
that one
base.
can be all right. That's got a use at least.
Has a use. Yes, that is our floor.
You know what? I take that back. I don't think there was much competition here.
Yeah, I think instant summons like taste the cake. It is the worst option here. I love wrist pocket, even though it's not that good. And like
Holy
that's
crap.
probably one of the worst low level options that we got.
Create food and water is a 3rd level spell.
Pretty bad, huh?
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, it solves a problem in games that don't necessarily want that problem solved, and it
Yeah.
does it at a really expensive cost for some reason.
All right. That's possibly a contender, but if you're hungry, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's also cheaper than instant summons.
Yeah. You don't have to pay 1,000 gold for a burger.
Correct. But yeah, commenters, if you did think you had a different worse option, is Storm Vengeance worse because it's 9th level? Maybe. Maybe it
Uh,
is. Instant Summons is a ritual spell, so maybe that has to get going for it over like Tree Stride or something. There are some bad
it,
conjuration spells, but there are a lot of really busted ones.
I don't care that instant summons is a ritual spell. It's still costing me a ton of money and might not work.
Yeah. For what is such a menial effect. Like the effect is you got to keep a weapon on you, right? Like what are
Yeah.
we doing here? Oh, it's awful.
All right. Well, those were our picks for Conjuration. Stay tuned next time for whatever the next school is.
Evocation,
Um,
maybe? Divination? Who knows? If
might,
we're doing them
might be
alphabetically,
divination.
I guess
Yeah.
divination.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you, Sam, for being here. Leave your thoughts and your own personal list down in the comments below, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.